Hey there, vinyl community. Hope everyone is doing all right. It's the end of a beautiful day here in Michigan. It was gorgeous, gorgeous out. A good day to be out and about and doing things. And we hung out downtown for a little bit and uh, you know looked at a few records as you might expect. But yeah, so I hope everyone had a nice day. It's a nice evening to maybe have a beverage, you know, relax and you know, chill out. Watch your favorite Sunday night live stream, which is probably George's live stream tonight. So anyway, I've been haven't been buying too much lately. I've been focusing a little bit more on capturing a few things that you've always got those gaps, and I've been trying to fill a few of those. Oh, by the way, if music that we're listening to tonight, um, this really nice. It's soundtrack to a film. Here, let me put that there for you. But very library-esque in its delivery. Uh, Kind of an interesting movie too. If you're into these kind of 70s exploitation films, obviously this actress is just gorgeous, and wow, if that's not reason to watch the film, then I can't think of a better one. But it's a great little album too. This is a reissue. I can't imagine what it might not be that rare. I came past this one day and I had heard some of it, and I was into it, so I went ahead and got it. And not expensive, I think, real cheap. But yeah, I've been buying a lot of like, if any part of, it's kind of filling the gaps of a lot of like my 45s. I haven't shown them before just because they're not as exciting to look at. But there's a few here that I thought might be interesting. A lot of, to me, great music. I dug out. This is the very first 45 I ever bought in my life when I was just probably, God, maybe 8 or 9 years old. My mom used to give me money to buy a record with, 45. And this is, I don't know if you can see that. It's Debbie Lawrence, the night when the lights went out in Georgia. That's the first 45 I ever bought. And so it's nice to have it. It's not something that I imagine I would be listening to very often anymore, but it's cool to have it and remember that. Anyway, yeah, I have grabbed a couple of things that I thought were worthwhile. Two good ones that I was really happy to just stumble upon were the Electric Prunes. I've had these on CD for ages, and this is the stereo version of it, but it's an original, and it's in immaculate shape. And it's a really good garage rock, psych rock record. If you're not familiar with the Electric Prunes, this is nothing that I'm sure most people haven't seen before. It was just kind of cool to run into them. And then, even kind of a better find, I guess, was the first album. And that's famous for having I Had Too Much to Dream Last Night. Great track, but this is a mono. And it looks beautiful. I mean, it looks unplayed. So yeah, I was really happy to get both of those. I've looked at them and looked at them, and I was always unwilling to pay. You know, I like these a lot, but they're not like top tier things for me. But the price was just right, and I do like both of them, and since played them, and they're fantastic listens. But yeah, a couple other things. I hope this isn't too loud. I found probably should I take them out of here? You know, sometimes I always kind of look for the sleeves if I can find them, but I found um, that's the 45 to Journey to the Center of the Mind by the Amboy Dukes, Ted Nugent's first band. And whatever Ted has said or done since this, I can almost forgive him for, because this is so good. And in fact, the first two, I think I mentioned it in another video. Those first two Amboy Duke records are good psychedelic garage rock albums, and they're you know, you can still get them. You know, Ted's Big Mouth, he hasn't exactly done his legacy of a lot of good, but you can still find those around for a good price. I say grab them while you can. Oh, I also wanted to mention before I get too far is there's a new channel, Jose. I'll put a link on my page. Jose Morero is doing a live stream. He actually invited me to go up. I did my first live stream, and it was a lot of fun. And there were some great people on there, Big Star, Fred, and Alex, and I just appreciated being invited up. So go check out his channel. Jose is a great guy, and he has amazing taste in music. And I've always kind of admired his willingness to show things that you just don't see anywhere else. So check it out. And then I found, so that was the single to Making Plans for Nigel, XTC. Great. Early XTC. And then here was another one. This is it's almost, there's 3 songs on one side. It's Day In, Day Out, Chain of Command, and Limelight. And XTC, glad to find that. This I've showed before. This Stunty played this one day, and this is really groovy, funky. I just got it on a lark because he had mentioned it and played a little bit of it, and I really like this. I've listened to it a bunch of times. It was new to me. I was not familiar with King Midas, but check it out. Okay, so some of these will be, if you're not from the Detroit area, but I kind of been inspired. Dead Wax does a live stream, plays a lot of like local Detroit rock and roll, and I think he likes that same era, those magical years between the late 70s and the early 80s, when there was just a lot of great music, a lot of cool things collided, you know, like punk and power pop and new wave, and all of those sounds kind of came together, and it made for a lot of adventurous, interesting music, especially the singles. And Dead Wax was playing some tracks I haven't heard in ages, and it was cool to hear them, and it inspired me to check into it. One of the bands, Randy didn't play this, but this was a band that went to the same high school as I did. Bittersweet Alley, Forever. They had a little regional hit, probably no one's ever heard of it, with a song called Time to Move. Oh, hold on. Time to Move. So they were, relatively big, local band that never quite got their due. A lot of catchy, punky, new wavy power pop songs, and good stuff. Not so dissimilar from the Romantics, which Tell It to Carrie was really the first single from the first album. This actually came out before the first album. The single version of it is a little more raw, and I think a little more well put together than the album. The Romantics, people kind of dismiss them. What I Like About You. For those of you who didn't see the Romantics live, they were an amazingly aggressive and much closer to punk than they were power pop live. On record, some of that got toned down. Another little uh, um, Starry Eyes was just, to me, the epitome of late 70s uh, new wave power pop. Great little track though, and the 45 version of it is a different edit and sounds, I think, much tighter and much nicer. Uh, the A side is a stereo mix and the B side is a mono mix, so the 45 is a cool find. Here's a, talk about metal bands, and that. One of the metal bands from that era that I always really thought was very good. These have to be the worst sleeve covers ever. In no way reflective of the music that's on the 45. But Riot was great, and Outlaw was a killer little single that I don't think went all over the country. Kind of New Jersey, and then made it over into the Midwest a little bit. Be curious to know how many people know about Riot. This was cool. This was Hawkwind's Silver Machine 45. So when their live album initially came out, which is the album that this is associated with, the single was not on the album. And a lot of people thought that it was. It's not. So it's cool to find that. I really like that. Eddie and the Hot Rods was a local Detroit band. Killer garage rock sounding. Did a bunch of singles during this period that never really exploded onto the scene. I think eventually they became the Rods, but it was Eddie and the Hot Rods, and kind of like the Flaming Groovies a little bit, maybe a little harder. Speaking of the Flaming Groovies, I found You Tore Me Down on Bomp. Great record label, love Bomp Records. Stuff that came out in the 70s. They used to do a lot of them on colored vinyl back when that wasn't like such a big thing. This one's not. It's a black label, but yeah. Bomp always was doing. They did a couple Iggy albums, or they did Kill City with Iggy and James, and the original pressing of it is on the green vinyl. So cool record. I think it may be a pink vinyl too, because I saw a pink vinyl version of it one day, and it may have came out that way. Freakwater is a band I don't think a lot of people will be familiar with. They are a kind of, how do I describe them? Some people might mistakenly call them Americana, or, country rock or whatever. It's a little bit more, there's a kind of a raw Appalachian feel to some of this. And what's so cool about it is that the lyrics and the songs are always very connected to the working class and working class struggles. And that's intentional. And it doesn't just act as a gimmick. I mean, they're really singing from that point of view. And yeah, good stuff. By the way, the B-side is Black Sabbath, War Pigs, which is pretty cool to hear. I highly suggest anyone who is curious about Freakwater. This is a great little band that nobody talks about. Really good stuff. One day somebody's going to figure out how great these guys were. And they're still around. I don't say were, still are. And their stuff is gonna, yeah, everyone's gonna want it. Another Detroit rock and roll band had a single that was kind of a regional hit, but I don't know how many people outside of Detroit are gonna know the Torpedoes. This was another track that Randy Deadwax played a couple weeks ago. And I have it on a compilation, a Detroit Platters compilation, just the single, and the single was Pop Star. And I don't know if you can see it, Pop Star. If ever there was a Iggy and the Stooges ripoff, but in a good way, like in the best way. That was just the sound that was happening, like right, I think this is 1979, if I'm not mistaken. See if I can see it. Yeah. Recorded in Detroit, May 1979. And I remember them playing this, I was still pretty young. And I remember them playing this on WRIF and WABX and those channels that were like the rock channels. But they were, in the best sense of what was left of that. It was still kind of underground sound. So you'd hear this next to, the more mainstream hits. And when you're young, you don't differentiate between any of it. I didn't know that this was just some local band. And yeah, the Torpedoes, great single. And this will be something I don't imagine too many people outside of Detroit know about. But it's a wonderful, wonderful single. Another local band from Detroit, the Vertical Pillows. And I had a buddy who designed the sleeve. He went to art school in Detroit, and used to know people in the band. And I remember seeing them at like St. Andrews Hall. And Jump Back Run, it's not their best single, but it's still a pretty good example of Detroit rock and roll from that period. The Vertical Pillows. Another Detroit band. Randy Dead Wax played this track too. Now I have the full length, well, it's not really a full length album, it's an EP. But I ran across just the 45 version of the Mutants doing So American and piece of shit. So American's a really catchy little, self-aggrandizing American song that people love so much. But it's done in a really good kind of punk way, glorifying all the trashiness of American consumer society. So, yeah, the Mutants, So American, killer little song. Another Michigan-based band was, I'll tell you, if you want to hear a wild punk going way beyond punk into avant-garde experimental music, but with some of the same aggression as punk had in that original, taking the Damned, to the extreme, is or like Big Black or something like that, but going further is this track by Wolf Eyes, and this is aggressive stuff, but good, but really, really good and challenging. And when I first heard this, it was such a breath of fresh air. Play it, get ready for it. It'll blow your mind. I don't know if there was anything else. Oh, again, this is a track that Randy played on his live stream. Dead Wax played. There was a band. I think they were Canadian. I say that a little bit. They're called the Kings. Take it out of here. And the Kings had this double-sided single, meaning that these two songs, the first song was, so that you would hear this on the radio this way, they would have these two, 45s laying next to each other, and they would play The Beat Goes On, which was the A side. And then as that track's ending, it cuts right into Switch into Glide. And it's just, you're almost not able to tell that there was a transition from one track to the other. I'm going on too long. Sorry for the long video. But this was a great radio rock and roll from that era that didn't really, it still had enough of that independent sound and to still sound like Detroit, to still have that roots of the Detroit sound still. So great stuff. And anyway, thanks for watching. I appreciate it. And check out Jose's live streams when he does them. They're really, really interesting. He plays music in the same way, Stunty has turned so many of us on to, avant-garde music. Jose has a really good feel for for avant-garde music with maybe a little bit of an emphasis going into Mexico and Central America and South America, and especially if you like kind of garage bands from all over the world. But he's not limited to that either. I mean, it's a show that goes all over the place. Anyway, great show, and I'm sure anyone who likes adventurous music, cool music, and he's got kind of irreverent take on sound and music, the same, but in his own unique way, like Stunty does, and I use him as an example just because so many of us are grateful for turning us on to great sounds. So anyway, thanks everybody, and hope you all have a good night. This went a little longer than I thought, so I'm sorry.